all, I just want to say thank you to Hands Off Somali committee for extending the invitation to the Uhuru movement to be here and be part of this discussion. And I would also like to say thank you to the poet who just gave a beautiful piece, and I think it was right. It was just on point. And as I said, we take this meeting seriously, and we believe the situation in Somalia requires urgent response. So I'm just going to start with a few slogans or chanting, and I just want you to unite with those slogans. Hands off Somali now.
Hands off Somali now.
Hands off Somali now.
Hands off Somali now.
Somali not for sale.
Somali not for sale.
Somali not for sale.
Somali not for sale.
Africa not for sale.
Africa not for sale.
That's why they speak about Somalia on the television as if it was they're talking about Tesco. They're talking about people, our people catching hell, not because God said we should catch hell. We're catching hell because imperialism went to Africa. That's when we start catching hell in Africa. So that we say imperialism, hands up to Somalia now. And the brother will just give a piece of poetry here, talk about the discussion that's taking place in the community. If you're not happy here, if you talk about Somalia so much, why don't you go back home? Why don't you go back to Somalia? But the answer is simple. We want to go home. As our chairman of Malaysia says, we're not going home empty-handed. We want to go back what they stole from Africa. That's what we want. We want to go back with our money, not the fake money they're printing every day. We want the real money. We want our real money. We want our gold. We want to go back home to our diamond, our oil, everything they stole from Africa. We want to go back home with it. Bring it back to us, we will leave straight away, go home. It's very simple. And that's why we're here. We're not here because we came to enjoy the weather. We're missing home. Every African you see, every Somali you see is missing home. If he's not missing home, probably must be a friend of Barack Obama. He's not missing home. We're missing home. We want to go home. But as I say, we're not going home empty-handed. Imperialism is in crisis. Serious crisis. You know, the British used to brag about, they used to run the world, they used to be running the empire upon which the sun never set. You remember that? Yes. They can't say that anymore. In the beginning of last century, in the early 19s, the British used to produce at least 25% of all the manufactured product in the world. Today, they don't even produce 3% of it. It's a has-been power. Has-been power. Britain cannot have a weight in our world affairs as they used to do. So we need to, as we discussed, to be aware of that. So we're here because we believe the question of freedom is fundamental. In the world, there are only two kinds of people. People who are free and people who are oppressed. Africa is an oppressed continent. All African people are oppressed peoples. And Britain belongs to the oppressor nation. And that's the problem in the world. There is a split between oppressor nations and the oppressor nations. And our struggle is what? It's about to overturn this relationship. We want to have a relationship with everybody in the world, but not based on oppression and exploitation. And we want to overturn this. And I believe this meeting is a part of that process. And I want people really to understand what we're trying to say. Our struggle is about to get Africa back in our hands. Our struggle is to recapture our future in our own hands. Because for so long, the future for Africa, the destiny for African people have been in the hands of imperialism. And our struggle is to get it back from them. And Africa is not free. And all black people you see, generally speaking, we are not free. And this is a part of the struggle we are involved in today. Every time you watch the television, they show you images of black people catching hell. Africa is not poor. Africa is not poor. Africa is looted. Africa is not poor. Africa is looted. And we want our children in particular, because they go to schools, they have all these assemblies every morning, And they bring some guy, sometimes they bring our charity organization and telling our children, we need to raise funds to help your brother and sister home. And we go tell our children that's not true. If anybody comes to school, tell them to bring back everything they saw from Africa. So Africa's no poor. Africa's being looted. And that's why Britain wants to go back to Somalia. Because I read last month somewhere, I'm not sure what magazine I read, everywhere now in Africa, when they're looking for, it could be zinc or copper, they're going to pick on oil. Even when they're not looking for oil, everywhere they're looking for mineral resources, they're going to pick on oil. So oil is everywhere. Somalia, full of it. Sudan, full of it. Congo, full of it. Mozambique, full of it. Libya. The whole Africa is full of oil and gas as well. And I believe the war in Syria is about the gas. You see, so Africa is not poor at all. Africa is wealthy. In fact, if you don't believe me, just read all the books written by all the anthropologists, so all the men and women of sciences. They said humanity began what? Africa. Why humanity began in Africa? Because Africa is friendly to life. Africa has always been friendly to life. So when you see life becoming unbearable in Africa, you're not looking at any kind of Africa phenomenon. You're looking at imperialism. What you say in Africa, that's the real capitalism. Because we are told that Africa needs to join capitalism. It's a lot of people talk about capitalism, but they don't get what capitalism is. Capitalism was born out of enslavement of African people around the world. That's where capitalism came from. Capitalism is not just a natural phenomenon that some guys, some white guys in Britain or France wake up one day and say, let's set up a shop, let's build a factory. It didn't start like that. They assaulted Africa. They assaulted Americas. That's where they got what Karl Marx referred to as primitive accumulation. That's where they got the resources, allow them to build capitalism. So what we're trying to say basically, we are opposed not just to capitalism, we are opposed to the essence of capitalism. What is the essence of capitalism?
Exploitation.
Parasitic capitalism. I'm not talking about the strike at Renault or Ford or Jaguar. We're talking about parasitic capitalism. We're talking about the resources that make capitalism even possible. Are you with me on that?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about. So if you're against capitalism, you must be against parasitic capitalism. If you're not against parasitic capitalism, you just want a piece of the pie. That's basically what's happening. That's what all the movement you see around Europe. There have been a movement against capitalism, not against parasitic capitalism. There's a big difference. Really a big difference. And I want people in this room to struggle with us if they disagree with us, because you cannot come to conclusion that Africa should be free, Africa should have access to own resources if you don't take position against parasitic capitalism. We have a lot of materials, Burning Spear, just one of them. You can grab on the table over there that talks more about parasitic capitalism. What we also want to say is that the press, for example, they speak about Africa in a way that marginalizes Africa. For example, you hear they say people or British or French, whoever from Europe have been kidnapped by pirates off coast of Somalia. How can anybody, how can the British press, how can the British imperialism call anybody a pirate? Just tell me, how can they call anybody a pirate? When you know the British Navy was built from piracy. That's how it was built. The US Navy was built of piracy. So the British, the French Navy, all of them. So you cannot call out people the Somali pirates in the first place. And I would like this meeting to pass a resolution calling for the liberation of any brother and sister from Somalia who have been arrested under the pretext of fighting against piracy. Yes. They are the front table. Some of them are in the U.S. jail. Some of them are in the French jails. I guess some of them might be in British jails too. That should be free. That should be free. The real pirates are the French Navy and the British Navy and the U.S. Navy, the Chinese Navy. All of them were joining that struggle, of course, of Somalia. And they would say some people have been kidnapped in the Indian Ocean. You know, I have nothing against India. I see India is part of the struggle that has changed the world. But I'm telling you about symbolism. It's not Indian Ocean. That should be the African Ocean. Look at the size of India. Look at the size of Africa. How can you call that space Indian Ocean? It doesn't make sense. But these they have taught us and anybody else around the world to see Africa and Africans as marginalized forces in history. And we always say we are not marginalized forces in history. We're not. And that's really significant. We also want people to know that we are fighting for power. We are fighting for power in our own hands. That's what we're fighting for. This is not a struggle against racism. This is a struggle against colonialism. Colonialism is one of the features of parasitic capitalism. So we're fighting against colonialism. We're not fighting against racism. This is not to say racism doesn't hurt people, but this is to say that the starting point is no racism. Racism is a consequence of colonization of Africa. Remember, when Europe assaulted African Americans, there was no white man or white woman. Nobody referred to people in Europe as white people. Do you know that? Nobody called people in Europe as white. White is a political construct in something that developed when Europe achieved power on the rest of the world or on the rest of us. That's why the white Europeans began to see themselves as separated, as superior to anybody else who exists on the planet Earth. Yeah. That's why they began to refer to themselves as white people. So, as imperialism dies, because imperialism is going to die, that's why I'm here. I'm here because I heard that people come to this meeting want to destroy imperialism. When imperialism dies, there will be no white people in the sense of whiteness. There will be just humans like everybody else. And that's what we're going to be. We're going to build a world where there is no slave masters or slaves, no bosses or workers, no oppressed nations or oppressed people. We're going to build a free people. That's what we are here for. So this is important meaning. So you want to say, one of the reasons we continue here in Somalia, because Africa is divided. There are 54 Africas. Africa is split. Just think about it. Any president in Africa wants to do a deal with China, just as an example, about it could be about diamond or about oil. There are 54 deals done between 54 African presidents and the Chinese president. The Chinese president is the only one who knows the real price or the real details of the deal, because he's dealing for all the 54 presidents. If there was only one African oil market, what's going to happen? There will be only one deal. If you're buying African oil, one deal, one market. If we're selling diamond, there will be only one African diamond market. So British can't trick anybody, French can't trick anybody, nobody can trick anybody, because there's only one government in Africa. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a United States of Africa. And that's why we have a slogan that says, one Africa,
one nation.
One Africa,
one nation.
One Africa,
one nation.
Because the struggle we are involved in is a struggle to build the African nation. And the African nation is going to be born as a revolutionary nation. It's going to be born as a proletarian nation, because the world we want to build is a world based on absence of imperialism. And how this is possible. You know, who is the biggest threat to any struggle for freedom for anybody on earth? Imperialism. Which one in particular? The United States of imperialism. The United States of America is the biggest threat to anybody who wants to be free. That's why they gave us a president who sounds like everybody else, who looks like everybody else, who has a name like everybody else, isn't it? He knows how to say Salam Alaikum, but he bomb you at night. That's what they gave to him. Why did they give him to us? Because imperialism could not hide anymore. People of the world identified George Bush, they identified US imperialism as the biggest threat to anybody who can be free. So imperialism has to change its face. So they got the face of who? Of the slave. Barack Hussein Obama. Now Barack Hussein Obama is killing us in Somalia. Bush couldn't do it. Effectively, as Barack Obama, there will be demonstration all over Africa. Bush could not force Africa in Djibouti, but Obama's done it because it confuses us. So, one thing we want to do is, we are serious about this, brother and sister. We want to build the Britain front of African revolution. We are in Britain, but we want a Britain front of African revolution. It will be made of Africans from everywhere, Somalia, Congo, everywhere. The same way we are building, we just came from France. You can check down UhuruNews.com. We had the African Liberation Day. We are involved in building the France front of the African revolution. Forget about a socialist coming to power in France. That's a lie. If that guy was a socialist, what should he do in the first place? What a socialist should do? Give Africa back what they stole from Africa. Isn't that right? That's what they should do. It's not doing that. You're making plans for more looting in Africa. So we want to build that. And we are inviting you to join us in August. We're going to start what we call a worldwide anti-war movement. Because I don't see a war movement in this country. I don't see a war movement in France. Then we decolonize. We have to build our war movement. And everybody can participate in that. Only thing you have to believe, one, African self-determination, which means we have to be leading that war front, that war movement that needs to be built. Because it's a war against Africa. Africa is under assault. Africa is under serious assault as we talk to you right now. How many of us die in Somalia every day? Any figure, any number? Any? How many of us are dying every day? It's a war against Africa. And Africans are just going to the business like as war wasn't happening. There should be a demonstration in London every single day against the British, the US, the French war on African people. There should be every single day. There should be no day of peace in Britain because we Africans should not allow imperialists to be in peace. I'm going to wrap up by just finishing. It's a fundamental task of all of us here. A fundamental task for all of us here is to break the ability of the British government to fund the war on Somalia, to fund the war on the Congo, to fund all these proxy wars in Africa. That's the job of all Africans and anyone else who is in an alliance or in unity with Africa, our struggle. We have to stop the British government ability to wage war on Africa. That is the #1 task for anybody else who believes that Africans will be free. If you don't believe in that, you need to do something else. But if you really believe in that, then we have to do that. The British government should not have the ability to wage war on Africa. There are enough of us. Yeah. Remember the August Rebellion? Yeah. Didn't we paralyze London? Yeah. I know some of you will not endorse that. No. We salute the young people, the young Africans who want to restrict this country down. British imperialism has to be punished for all the crimes they committed against Africa for centuries and what they're committing today. Because British government is a criminal government. It was born like that, it's maintained like that. It doesn't deserve any respect from any Africans anywhere on this planet. That's why we say we need to build that movement against the war. And we are serious about it, and we would like to talk to you more about that. I know my time is up. I just want to say once more thank you to Hands Off Somali committee for extending the invitation to us, and we're looking forward to the discussion because this is serious time. It's African time.